Hey, Ideal Protein Nation. Thank you for joining us today. Today is a momentous occasion. This is one of the most incredible experiences of my life, actually, pinnacle of our show so far. I am so excited, so nervous, and what have you, but we're bringing this to you today, and I hope that you enjoy the heck out of it. First off, I know that we're going to have a lot of first-time viewers and listeners to the show, and I just want to set it up. What is the Life Possible podcast? The Life Possible podcast, I designed to showcase successful clients, coaches, and clinic owners who have used the Ideal Protein protocol to reset their body, reset their mind, and reset what's possible for their life. These individuals now have truly had life-changing experiences, and they're pursuing goals and dreams that they thought were dead and gone. They're pursuing goals and dreams they never thought they could. Some of them are pursuing goals and dreams they never even knew they wanted to. In short, it's the difference between merely existing and actually living life. It's my hope that this show will speak to both your heart and your head, and that it might inspire you to pursue your own life possible. Well, who am I and why am I even doing this? My name is Dr. John Barnes. And you know what? I tell you what, there's no easy way to put this. It's going on 6 years. Today, oh dear God, I just realized today is the 6-year anniversary of the day I started phase 1, March 3rd, 2015. There's no way to put this. 6 years ago, I was fat, sick, and depressed. And I didn't see a way out. I had literally given up, didn't understand what happened to my body, just decided that I was going to go along with it and be the funny fat guy the rest of my life. And then God answered my prayers, literally, both personally and professionally, with the Ideal Protein protocol. Today, I find myself 65 pounds lighter than that day 6 years ago, and I'm pursuing my life possible. I've returned to the sport of triathlon after over 25 years of inactivity, and it's been an absolute thrill for me. I have the best job in the world. I'm an Ideal Protein clinic owner and coach, and I get to help other people transform their lives. All right, enough about me. Boy, I tell you what, today we are going across the pond to the UK, one of my favorite places, one of the few places I have visited across the pond, and I hope to go back someday. We're going across the pond today to speak to a very incredible lady. We are going to be talking to Ideal Protein CEO Melanie Stack. I'm not even going to introduce her with any of her other credentials because that's what we're going to go through today. Let me just bring her in and let's get this show going. Hey, Mel.
Hey, hi, John. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's spring in the UK.
Spring.
So we're still closeted. We're still locked down, but there are snowdrops and flowers out and the sun's shining and it's spring. Yeah. So it feels like some kind of emergence from a very long, dark winter.
Yeah, right. So that's going to be figuratively and hopefully very literally for everybody soon.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I have to confess, I dreamed up this whole thing just so that I could spend so much time with you and have your ear. We have spent so much time over the past couple of weeks, and it's been so amazing. And I've really enjoyed learning about your personal history, your professional history, and I know that our viewers and our listeners are going to enjoy that as well. So I want to set up the show. Number one, you actually asked to be on the show after seeing the episode with Geneva Eickhoff, right?
Yeah, I saw Geneva's episode, and I've glimpsed a few of the episodes during the history of the time you've been doing this, and always think I must kind of sit down and listen to some back episodes, but made it a priority to listen to Geneva's because I knew I was missing a few. And it was really inspirational. One of the very first encounters I had with Ideal Protein was when I was still consulting and just new to the business, and I came out to an Austin Super Weekend, And Deanne Harris, one of our team, kindly gave me she posted me to England, actually, the Geneva's cookbook, and I've been using it for a couple of years, but somehow she and I have never crossed paths. And there she was, telling her story, and she's inspirational. She is amazing. I do not know how we have not met. Maybe the pandemic and lack of super weekends hasn't helped, but yeah, so she and I are chatting tomorrow, actually. So you've kind of brought us together.
That's amazing. That's the best news I've heard all morning.
I can't wait to see her too.
Yeah, such an incredible woman. So glad you guys are talking. Hey, real quick before we move forward, I did want to just tell us about your beautiful kids.
Okay, so we have Joshua and Millie here. Joshua is 25. He's living in London. He works in the music industry, which is a little bit barren right now. He does events and tour managing and DJing, and there are no events and there are no tours. So he's kind of making a living doing odd jobs and hopefully waiting for better times. But he's terrific, staying very buoyant, working hard, always finding a way to pay his rent. And my daughter is living in London too, studying a postgrad law conversion. She needs to do her human rights work, and she's super dedicated and has probably picked the right year when we can't go anywhere to do a course that would preclude her from doing anything but studying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're terrific. They're terrific. They're really resilient. They've been through a lot the last few years, and I'm so proud of them. They're incredible.
Yeah. Oh, that's so neat. Yeah, I want to start there, and we will start then talking a bit about your personal history, who Mel Stack is, what has kind of made her, and your personal experiences. One of the things that I think people are most interested in, and if you could just kind of speak to it, what has been your experience through your childhood, growing up, and adulthood, with weight, with nutrition, with dieting, and all things that way?
Gosh, how long have you got? I think, this kind of goes to the root of why I'm here in many ways. It's everything I've done in my life so far has brought me to Ideal Protein, both kind of professionally, but also personally. And, I've always struggled. Well, probably since my late teens, I've struggled with my weight. I was a pretty fit teenager. My dad was a PE teacher, and we, sport was kind of inherent in our upbringing. But I started that kind of cycle of yo-yo dieting all the way through uni. I think I first queued for a Weight Watchers meeting when I was 18 years old. And I was in and out of various diets and various weird fads, and really probably until 2 years ago, not really in any way aware that none of them were making any kind of sustainable difference because of how they were constructed, but also, more importantly, none of them were going to be enablers of a kind of better physiology and better health, because it was just less of the same food. I mean,
right.
Some of these great flexible programs that enable you to eat whatever you want as long as you track it, but you just eat half of the same bad stuff.
Right.
I've done that for years, and I've learned a lot the last few years. I kind of have a very favorite story that once put in the spotlight where some of my eating behaviors came from. I mean, I'm the child of wartime, just slightly post-war parents for whom, you never left anything on the plate.
Right.
My mom is a consummate, brilliant chef. So, and I grew up in the days when we had big school meals at lunchtime and then big evening meals in the evening. So eating and not regulating were all part of my upbringing. But probably more than that, food has been positioned as a comfort. And just to give you an example, just a few years ago, about probably 25 years ago, my sister emigrated for a while to Malaysia, and we all said this very painful goodbye at the airport. She had small kids, I had small kids, the kids were separating, we were all saying goodbye. And I remember coming out the airport feeling just grief-stricken that I wasn't going to see her for however long. And my mum kind of reaching in a bag for the chocolate mini eggs and saying, this will make us feel better. And in hindsight, I just, that behavior is embedded. And I don't blame my mum, she's amazing, but food has been a comfort.
Yeah.
And actually, again, when I read Dr. Tran's book, which we'll talk about later, and you suddenly realize that, if many foods are going to be there for pleasure, you have one chocolate and it's a pleasurable experience. If you're eating 15, 20 mini eggs in one session without even tasting them, just to plug a gap, but it's a psychological, emotional gap, then, that's how those patterns are formed. And that was me.
Oh, absolutely. And when we talked about that story earlier in preparation, especially those darn mini eggs, right? That absolute favorite during Easter. We had to buy multiple bags because they might not have made it into the baskets because of me. And don't get me started telling you my chocolate chip story. So you'll have to go back to a couple of episodes for that one. But yeah, it's a natural behavior. We're brought up with it, and like you said, there's nobody to blame over it. It's just the way that we've been brought up. Naturally, especially with children, we're going to reach for something, and food and sugar is the easiest thing. And then as we grow up, unfortunately, it might turn to other avenues. But food is the most accepted. It's always around. You can't get away from it. I can't check out at Home Depot and buy tools and lumber without checking out over a counter of candy. Right?
Yeah. We live in a toxic environment. We live in a place, our houses are designed for grazing and socializing. The retail environment is designed to kind of push food on us. Starbucks is designed to sell us a cookie with that coffee.
Right.
It's, we are, Brian Onsick's book, Mindless Eating, is one of my favorite books. And it just kind of underpins, we are faced with hundreds of food decisions every day subconsciously without knowing it, because we have to make these proactive choices not to. And it's when in a world where it's much easier to, which is why more people are now overweight and obese than on. It's the environment conspires, and our brains are wired. The stories we tell ourselves. I can still convince myself that, coming up to Easter, I deserve mini eggs because it's that time of year. And, that behavior is deep rooted and emotional and not particularly helpful. So I'm learning.
No.
I'm still learning. I've probably learned more the last 2 years, actually, as I've been here with Ideal Protein, and I've read so much and I've worked with some terrific people, and I kind of understand that inside out philosophy we have around macronutrients and balance and the physiology than I've learned in, the rest of the other 57 years put together, to be honest.
Well, it's a situation of it's a new way of approaching and thinking about this. And then when the light bulb goes off, it goes off. Because again, how many years have you been around the industry, in the industry, both as consumer and as executive, and had the frustrations. And then, wow, this new concept, this new idea, and this new approach. And we're going to get into that a little bit later in depth. What was that book again that you mentioned about the decisions?
Mindless Eating.
Yeah. You mentioned that book in our preparation, and I looked it up, and it's over 200 food choices, and that's just average, right?
Yeah.
The average individual has over 200 food choices a day.
Yes.
And, that's hard to fathom. And we ask a lot of our clients.
There's a ton of work being done on, the brain's response to food, as you know, and we're all learning that, for many of us, food talks to us. Certain foods light up different receptors in our brains. And, so when you're in Home Depot, when you're at Starbucks, when you're in the gas station, you don't know that you are being pushed to make active choices not to, because it's the whole environment conspires.
Yeah.
So I walk through our local gas station here when I go and fill up the car. I have decisions to make about the pastries they're cooking and the smell they're projecting through, about coffee, about candy, about crisps and snacks, or chips, as you call them in the States. And, there's probably 15 decisions there just in a small trip to fill up with gas that I'm not even really aware of.
Right.
But yeah.
So,
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So while we're talking about your childhood, et cetera, one of the things that struck me most, you kind of talk about a life philosophy that your mom instilled in you, that you've been able to use throughout your career.
Yeah.
And I found it just absolutely very poignant, and I'm going to use it during coaching clients.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us a little bit about that. Let's go through that story.
So this kind of comes from, this for me is another anchor point in terms of why I'm with Ideal Protein, because there's a similar philosophy that's echoed throughout Dr. Tran's approach to mindset and approaching a weight loss journey, and really kind of giving yourself credit and putting yourself first and learning to love yourself. You don't lose weight and then you suddenly love yourself. You have to, at some level, know that you're worth it. And, that sentiment was kind of one of the foundational cores of my upbringing. And all of my friends, anybody who knows me knows that this is true, because I've talked about it a lot over the years. But and the irony of this is my parents are still around. They've been married for 60 years and they're absolutely inseparable. But they were amazing and are amazing, loving, stable people.
Yeah.
Who worked incredibly hard to kind of qualify as teachers later on, when we were kids. And they're incredible. They have 3 girls, and somewhere along the way, there's a kind of value in me that I know came from my mum, but I don't know how. That is that, no matter what you do in this world, and no matter who you are, and no matter how amazing your community is, your friends are, your family are, no matter how much you love the people around you, ultimately, this is your life and you've only ever got yourself. And if you can learn to really love yourself and live with yourself and be comfortable with who you are, then anything is possible in this life. And
Brilliant.
I mean, ironically, for all kinds of reasons that we'll probably touch on, that sustained me through the toughest of times. I think it's helped me be who I am. And it's a philosophy and a belief that, when I first read Dr. Tran's book on an airplane coming back from that super weekend, I literally sobbed. It's like, I'm the man who can kind of put the whole psychology of how we feel and what will drive successful kind of choices and weight loss and healthy outcomes. I mean, the science of the protocol and then his philosophy combined is amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. No, I love that. The connection that you made there, and like you said, your mom never specifically said that to you. That was just a natural byproduct of everything they did when you were growing up. And I thought that was so neat. So talk to us a little bit about, let's just go real quick back to your preconception or your early conceptions of weight loss, what you needed to do, how it worked, and then where you've come to now. Where are we in your weight loss journey, and all those kinds of things?
So I think, my early days were, I mean, I did a lot of exercise at university. I was a squash player, a soccer player. I'd go on these diets, but I'd never really have a serious weight problem. My weight crept up when I had a young family. I was working, I was traveling, I was grabbing anything on the go. And I really, probably with hindsight, never put myself first at all. I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a wage earner. I just stopped exercising for a few years. So, it all kind of conspires. And I was that mom, actually, that, because I was working during the week, would replay the behavior of my childhood by kind of treating the kids to the M&M's store, or, some kind of great treat at the weekend that involved food, ice cream, anything we could shove in our mouths. So, my weight crept up and up during the course of my 30s and into my early 40s, and then I'd lose weight again. And then, but I think one of the things that really changed my whole approach was getting back to exercise when I was 43. I can tell you, it was the New Year's Eve.
There you go. Yep.
Third year, when I jokingly told a friend I was going to run a half marathon.
Yeah.
Laughingly, because I couldn't run to the nearest lamppost. That September I did, and then that kind of started a lifestyle of regular exercise, regulating my eating a bit. But genuinely, truly, it wasn't until I joined Ideal Protein that I really lost weight in a way that was meaningfully different, with a body that kind of was more muscular, was fitter, was healthier. And the last 2 years have been amazing, in terms of, just being able to regulate my weight. I am not always a kind of the perfect pupil for Ideal Protein, but most of the time it is a very, it's a major structure in my life in terms of the foods I eat, my awareness, that the balance of the macronutrients, leveraging our food, checking in with coaches every so often. So yeah, I mean, it's been critical. And actually, the last few weeks have been quite an epiphany for me, because leading into the winter, I was sequestered here, feeling sorry for myself.
Sure.
I haven't been able to travel, and it's been quite the year, as we all know. I have been that typical, COVID 20, creeping on the pounds. I had COVID over the holidays.
I heard that.
Recover, and I honestly, I have fallen back into those comfort eating, I deserve this behaviors, and I know this stuff, and I have been, an absolute advocate and rigorous follower of this protocol for 2 years. It's kept me fit. It's kept my weight off. It's changed my life and the way I think about food. And even I've kind of gone, oh, I just feel so sorry for myself, and I can't exercise. And the last 2 or 3 weeks, actually talking to you, spending time with you, then kind of getting into Elizabeth Benton's book, Chasing Cupcakes, it's been a massive wake-up call for me. And it just
what an incredible book that is, right?
Yeah, so as she would say, the time is now, the choices are now. I'm back on it. I've gone back onto phase 1. I need to lose the weight, and I need to get that rigor back, and I need to get that balance back into my system.
And so,
but there's no doubt actually that my experience with COVID was helped by the fact that I was still kind of pretty much on protocol all the way through to the end of the year. So, I'm fit. I've got lean muscle mass. I've got, good health indicators, and I could have been a lot sicker in COVID than I was. So
yeah, that's what you were saying. You were saying that although it was rough, it could have been a whole lot worse than it was had you not done the preparation work, so to speak.
I fundamentally believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, but you know what? Again, life comes at you hard. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of Ideal Protein, if you're a coach, life comes at you hard. And, I think that what that speaks to is just the idea that we're just like every other client that comes in. Nobody, no diet is a vaccine against weight gain, right? And all you can do is course correct, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And that's what an incredible tool we have to be able to go back and course correct. Yeah. So my questions for you as a coach, this kind of brought things up, is I usually ask people after they've been in for a week or two, how do you feel?
I feel great now. Yeah.
Right? It's about how you feel. And most people, when they come back into me for a reboot or a restart, that's one of the first things that's out of their mouth. It's not really, I've got to lose the weight. It's, I'm just looking forward to feeling good again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I kind of got to a place last week where I was starting to feel marginally better and less exhausted, because this long COVID thing is, you just can't find it. You just have to kind of go with it. And but I just took the advantage to kind of catch a few days of keto flu and live with it. And I've come out this week, I think it's a combination of feeling better from COVID, now being in ketosis. I've started to do a little bit of exercise this week, and I just feel great. And it's like, why didn't I do this weeks ago? I can tell myself all the stories as to why not, but
Yep. But again, the
choices is now.
Yep. Every choice is a chance for change. So I want to go back, because you talk about your exercise life. I'm fascinated when I was learning about your life history and the things that you've done and accomplished. And you know what? Tell us about your fitness life.
So as I say, I kind of started, I'm a kind of project goal kind of person.
Yeah.
So when I did my first half marathon, I started looking at other activities, and I've done a few half marathons, I've done a few charity 5K runs, etc. Also did a lot of work volunteering with the British Heart Foundation, because they need women ambassadors. Many women think heart disease is a male thing.
Yeah.
So they have a big charity event every year called the London to Brighton bike ride, where you drive down to the south coast of England. So I started doing that a few years. That picture is from the London to Brighton. I was absolutely exhausted, but we got there.
About how far is that?
65 miles.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah. And a lot of hills. A lot of hills. I can relay every single one of them. I still have dreams about them. And then I kind of, you say life throws things at you. I mean, we lost my husband 6 years ago of a heart attack, ironically, very suddenly. And then my exercise took on a whole new purpose. I mean,
actually, there he is.
Yeah, there's Greg. God love him and rest his soul. He was amazing. And he was long-term type 1 diabetic, but fit. I
was going to say, yet fit, right?
He'd cycled from the bottom of England to the top of Scotland. That was that picture. Lands End with John O'Groats. He'd run the London Marathon. He'd run the New York Marathon. His diabetes really impeded his New York Marathon, and he always said he'd love to run it again, and never, sadly, got the chance.
Huh.
So I'm going to do it. So yeah, after he died, I did a few charity runs. The previous picture with my son was a charity run we did in London together. A year after Greg died, the one in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
And I started applying for the New York Marathon ballot, never thinking I would get in. So I kind of did it thinking, yeah. And then, yeah, I kind of got an email one morning in 2017, the beginning of 2017, saying you've got a place.
Yeah.
I was shocked, daunted, terrified,
Right.
thinking I don't have to do this. Nobody will ever know.
Right.
And, I mean, I'm a great believer in fate and fate bringing us to places. And you know, I saw a posting on Facebook that day from a widows group that I was in, from a guy who I didn't know very well, but I knew him on the site, and he'd lost his wife very early on. They were in their early 40s. They had two very young kids. She died from a very rare cancer. He'd set up a charity to support people who need support with rare cancers, where you can't always find a support group because there's only a few people experiencing the same thing. It's an amazing charity. It's a little charity called Team Verico. It's a little British charity. And he posted saying, I wanted to run for Anna, the New York Marathon, and I've not got a place. And I thought, yeah, but I have, and I've got his place. So I'm doing it, and I'm going to do it both for the British Heart Foundation and Paul's charity. So
wow.
no going back.
Wow. Right.
Yeah,
Oh my God. And there's a picture of you after finishing right here. Hang on. I'm going to bring you back up so we can see the real deal. Let's see that hardware. Let's see that medal.
Yeah.
So you have run the New York Marathon.
Sure. Yeah.
26.2 miles.
Yeah.
In 2017.
Yeah.
So almost 4 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I'm so jealous.
I ran my first marathon at the age of 56.
So I guess that means I've got a couple years left to train.
Yeah. You have plenty of time. Yeah.
And there's an amazingly small percentage. What did we come up with? There's an amazingly small percentage of people in the entire world who can say that they've run a marathon.
I think it's 0.5% or something.
Yeah, there you go. Literally half a percent of the population of the world has run a marathon.
Yeah. It's an amazing. When Greg ran it, I remember kind of walking through the streets afterwards, and he was exhausted, and we were there with friends and thinking, these people are really proud of themselves. Look at these medals, and actually the London Marathon has an incredible atmosphere during the marathon, but there's something about the New York Marathon that carries on into the evening, and people in the street, they're there with medals, and I had no idea what that meant until I'd run it. And then, I didn't want to take that medal off for days.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, it really, you do realize what a community New York is, and what an amazing place. It's so inspiring. I mean, just starting off over the bridge, and you just think, I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
I can't believe I'm here, and I've got 18 miles to go.
But that is the thing about those events, right? Again, with me being back in triathlon and those kinds of things, the spirit about that, everybody is there and everybody has a story. Again, I kind of liken it to all of our clients, our dieters. Everybody has a story, and everybody who is there on that day with a bib on with a number, you're automatically part of a family. You're automatically pulling for each other. You get to hear some of those stories when you're at the start line or what have you, and it is one of the most amazing experiences. And I do try to inspire as many of my clients that used to do things like that. I try to make that part of their why. I try to give them those goals. You talk about being goal driven. After we reach that weight loss goal and we're working on our personal nutrition for life, now, so what? Let's put another goal out there that you can work towards, that your nutrition will support.
One of the most powerful things about the marathon, and I know you know this from the triathlon work you do, is the event itself and the community and the stories are incredibly powerful and moving and kind of carry you on the day.
Yep.
To be able to do 3 events in a triathlon, or to do 26 miles, or to do a half marathon, or even a 5K for some folks, whatever it is, you have to put yourself through a lot. I mean, I remember doing some of the long runs at the weekend, knowing I had to do 15 miles and then thinking I can never do that again, but knowing the next weekend it had to be 17.
Yeah, right.
And it comes back to that sense of you've only ever got yourself. You have got to dig deep and find some inner something.
Yep.
My marathon training and drive was all about doing this for Greg and for the kids, to show the kids that life carried on and we could achieve great things. So that partially drove me as well. But then the most amazing thing was I did some training with a running trainer, and she'd literally on a piece of paper set me homework every week of the runs I had to do, and then I'd just tick them off.
Yeah.
The power of tracking and mindfulness. I have a little orange folder upstairs with all of the week's runs I did, and lots and lots of individual little efforts that added up to a marathon. And sometimes I just sit and look at it and think, I did that. Not all one day, but like 4 or 5 months of, again, those positive choices. I went out, I had to do it, I said yes. And it soon adds up.
It's about the journey, right? That day is the culmination of so many days and weeks and choices. And it's just like a lot of our client, my clients, sometimes they come in when they've reached goal and they put their stack of journals down on the desk and say, you know what? I kept all my journal stock.
Yeah.
And those are some of the most amazing things.
Yeah.
So real quick, I just want you to, I know all your hardware is there. You brought down the hardware. Show us all your medals that you say it's the After 40 fitness hardware.
Oh my God. All my medals. I don't get the New York one out, but they're all the
same. There we go. Right. Life starts at 40 as far as I'm concerned.
I need another. That's what I need.
I'm sorry, you need what?
Oh, I need another one.
Yeah. Well, I heard a little birdie told me that Couch to 5K started again. Did it?
It did. It started on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. We'll revisit that later. Okay, let's shift gears. We've shown each other that we could talk all day long. Let's shift gears and head into your professional experience, because you've had some absolutely fascinating professional experiences that, again, learned lessons that have prepared you for being CEO of Ideal Protein. So let's go ahead and take us back. One of your first big careers. I'm fascinated and jealous by. Take us back.
So I can never work out if I've just been incredibly lucky or incredibly choiceful, but I've always worked for companies and brands that I care passionately about as a consumer. I spent many years, nearly 15 years in total, in different companies in the toy industry. But I was brought to the toy industry when the kids were young, and I went to work for Fisher-Price. And Fisher-Price is one of the most enduring, high quality, amazing developmental brands that, have ever been on this planet. I mean,
we've still got all the kids' old stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. It lasts forever. That was one of the challenges. Lasts through generations. Who hasn't got a Snoopy telephone or a little people garage, little people gas station?
Oh my gosh, my parents have mine. We've got my kids. Yep.
Chatterphone. That was the. But yeah, I just loved Fisher-Price. When I was at Fisher-Price, we were bought by Mattel, and they had Barbie and Hot Wheels and the Disney brands. I was really lucky to be at Mattel during the period of Lion King and Toy Story.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, my kids grew up thinking, toys were just things that fell out of heaven, really.
And how old were they during this time period? Like,
so, well, I had both my kids actually when I was working at Mattel. So, so kind of, they were preschool through to 10.
Wow! Oh my God!
She was 10, and then I kind of did a couple of years with an outdoor toy business, and then I also spent some time later on with Hasbro, who also had, you know, many favorite brands like Play School and Connect and different toy businesses. But
yeah,
I remember when the kids were about, I don't know, they'd be probably 6 and 8. All these Disney films were being launched. Pixar had come into being, and we had the license for the Pixar ranges as well. And we used to go to the cinema. Well, we used to go to these premieres that you know, the industry did
in Leicester Square, right?
Leicester Square on the red carpet, and they'd have loads of celebs there with their kids and people in the industry with their kids, and there'd be popcorn and candy and soda, and then there'd be an after show party, a Monsters Inc. theme party we went to once, a Toy Story party, etc.
Yeah.
And the first time I had to take my kids to the real cinema down the road,
I can't even imagine.
Joshua was kind of like, "Where's the free popcorn? And when's the party?" It's like, well, real life's not like that, but you can imagine how thrilled they were when I left the toy industry. Not,
oh, Mom, what are you doing? You're ruining our lives.
When we left the toy industry and went into the weight loss business, I mean, they were like, "Oh, great."
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually, as they've got older, and I kind of again came back to, you know, another favorite US brand, Yankee Candle, which I absolutely, I mean, I adore it. Anybody will tell you I have a house full of candles. It's an amazing brand. Talk about comfort in the home. And creating a sense of kind of safety and warmth. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely business. And luckily the kids were older then, so they could kind of appreciate the atmosphere of candles, etc.
Yeah.
And they as gifts, so they liked that choice.
Well, and again, just
amazing brands,
amazing brands, amazing companies, amazing US companies, right? Fascinating how that worked. Talk to us a little bit about that experience.
So the Yankee Candle experience.
Well, and just working for US companies.
Yeah, I mean, I've
all these years, right?
I've always worked for US companies. You know, most of the roles like Yankee Candle and my later roles at both Mattel and Hasbro involved a lot of travel into the US, although my role was in Europe. And you know, even working with Weight Watchers, I spent a lot of time in the US. And it's been interesting because this is the first time I've been lucky enough to kind of run a business in the US and in Canada, in North America. But
because up to this point, it was US companies that you were trying to bring or
manage in the UK and Europe.
In the UK and Europe, yep.
Yeah. So there were other folks running the US part of the business. I worked so closely with the Yankee Candle team in South Deerfield up there north of Boston. I was spending probably a third of my time out there at some stage, working with the business for Europe. But I've spent so much time working in European and Australian and Chinese businesses. It's taught me how different people are, how culturally nuanced different countries are. You cannot understand a country properly unless you've grown up in it. You don't know what its healthcare system is like. You don't know what a kind of cultural experience and upbringing is like. And that's taught me so much in terms of how to just be very humble about, I don't know what I don't know. I have a lot of experience in the US and Canada. I have a lot of experience in international. I have a lot of experience in weight loss, and there's a lot I can bring to this business. But I can never go back and grow up in the US. I can never have that US food experience growing up. I can never really understand what it's like to shop regularly at Walmart or Home
Mhm.
Depot or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have to always check myself in terms of not making assumptions and kind of relying on the people who do know this stuff.
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say, yeah, having good people on the ground who did
absolutely,
grow up in that culture of experience that
absolutely,
you
absolutely.
value there. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so you mentioned Weight Watchers, right?
Mhm.
And this was a huge part of your career.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that. You kind of started a little bit. It was a misfire, and then came back to it later, and had a pretty high position.
Yeah, so my first role at Weight Watchers was in the internet boom when they were setting up weightwatchers.com. And they decided we must get somebody outside of the US to start thinking about international. And, you know, I got that job because I was a consumer first and foremost.
Hmm.
I really didn't know anything about the internet. Nobody did at that stage, to be honest. And nobody knew how .com was going to kind of evolve, but everybody knew they needed a website. And so started working for the weightwatchers.com team in New York. And because it took them 2.5 years to get the website up and running in the US, and I came in right at the beginning. I think I was like the 40th employee in the first non-US one. Um, there wasn't a lot for me to do. So I was a kind of tester on the site, and I did a lot of work on the site. And I did, once I developed the business plan for Europe, I was waiting for us to be ready. So I spent that time losing weight on Weight Watchers, which I had done in the past, training as a Weight Watchers leader, and running
Hmm.
Weight Watchers meetings, and really getting to know the Weight Watchers business on the ground. And whilst Ideal Protein is in no context anywhere like Weight Watchers, I mean, this is not two more different businesses in one sector you could not possibly imagine.
Right.
But that year, and then my subsequent 9-year tenure with Weight Watchers core business, just taught me so much about the importance of accountability and coaching and working in a people business. It
A
is
people
totally
business.
about
Yeah.
relationships. And there are many, many parallels that kind of both taught me so much, and I realized I thrive in a kind of a relationship environment, and in an environment where I know people are driven by a sense of why and a sense of purpose, and want to help, and want
Yeah.
to do the right thing. I mean, the other kind of value that's instilled in me, and again, this one probably comes more from my dad, but it's like, if in doubt, always do the right thing, and other stuff comes.
Right.
In business, in personal life, it's really, really important to do the right thing by people.
Right.
um, so
Yes.
kind of, there's so much of that that's brought me here to Ideal Protein, um, and some of the foundations in terms of that coaching and that support, that are similar. But
And
then so
I
many
like
more
that
things.
you talked about the difference between being in a product profession versus a people profession.
Mhm,
And the thing
mhm,
that you enjoyed most about the product professions that you were actually involved in were the people,
mhm.
right? The relationships and the
Yeah,
people that you worked
yeah,
with, and that was the part you ended up liking the most. The support that Yankee Candle gave you when Greg passed away.
yeah.
Um,
I chose the Yankee Candle job because I loved the people up at South
yeah.
Tilford. It's a factory that's been there for 40 years. Many of the people from the local towns still work in that factory. Some have been there. We were regularly doing 20, 30, sometimes even 40-year celebrations. And
Wow.
it's a community, and it's a family. And,
Hmm.
they used to have this saying that, some of the folks working up in that team, you would cut their arm off and they'd bleed wax.
Oh,
Um, it's a brand of passion, and it's just an amazing community. And again, I was fated. I chose it. I loved the people. I loved the sense of community up in the factory when I went to visit. I joined the business thinking, do I want to still keep traveling all over the place? And I
Right.
thought, well, hey, I'll give it a go. And then, within 6 months of joining the business, Greg died suddenly, and they were amazing. I mean, they flew my son home from Australia. They took care of me the next 2 or 3 years. If anything happened with the children, because we had our dramas and they obviously have their anxieties now, they would just fly me home from wherever I was.
Yeah.
Not have been more supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was totally about the people.
And so then,
but it's totally about the people.
And then the shift to a people-focused, relationship-focused, you talk about the coaching relationship and establishing that, et cetera. That was a huge shift for you, and you seem to thrive and enjoy that even more.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Well, you know what? Then talk to us about the shift. Talk to us about where you were in your career when the whole concept of Ideal Protein came about to you.
So we'd been through, obviously, kind of personally, a challenging few years. And it was important to me, partly because of the support I just said, and partly because life goes on and the children needed to see that life carried on and that they could make a life beyond this devastating trauma. So it was important to me to carry on working, and I did. And then after about 5 years, the business was changing. We had new owners, and it was time to it was a natural time to take a break. And in my head, I kind of thought, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have a few months. Greg died in December, and it's also his birthday, and it's a tough month for us. So I kind of thought I finished at Yankee in 2018 at the end of September. I'd take time off to the holidays and rethink what was next, and maybe do some volunteering and all those things that we do with a sense of purpose. And I took a call from a very long-standing dear friend who was our CFO at Weight Watchers, who knew in those days. I mean, I bet you didn't know. You were involved in Ideal Protein in 2018, and you didn't know that we had a woman who was the chair of the board. I mean, she's a kind of genius and she's brilliant, but she keeps a very low profile, so she'll kill me
behind the scenes. Yeah.
But she asked me to come in and take a look at the business and work with our investors and just help them understand what was happening and why some things weren't working as well as they might. Because of who I am, as a consultant. And initially I said, no, I need a rest. I read a few things, but because of who I am, I need to touch and feel. I need to listen. I need to understand people. So I came out and I met the folks at headquarters and spent some time with Olivier and the team there. I went out to see some clinics and coaches and spend some time with our team out in Seattle. And Sheila Conklin was one of the first people I met, and she's still one of our amazing business team. She's fantastic.
Love Sheila.
And then I kind of heard about this thing called a super weekend, and coincidentally, it was going to be happening a couple of weeks later. So I flew back to Austin and just had a queue of people who wanted to talk to me and tell me about the business and their clinic and their Ideal Protein business and their experience and coaches and and I mean, the very first day I got there, I didn't know a soul. I think it was the day before the first day of the super weekend. I'd flown in late that night, came down to breakfast, and this guy plonked down next to me, and I kind of thought, oh, I think that's Dr. Tran. He chatted to me, and he was incredible. And yeah, I just learned so much, and
Well, I thought it was really fascinating when we were going through this story earlier, and you kind of described the people, like you said, who just lined up to talk to you,
Mhm, mhm.
and I think you described them as interesting, passionate, frustrated, opinionated, but in all the right ways, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was like, man, that is the absolute perfect description of an ideal protein clinic owner,
yeah, yeah,
and it probably always will be, but that's what it takes, and
yeah.
that's what this is about.
I mean,
So
people had a lot to say, and the
yeah.
business has grown very rapidly, um, and evolved into the US, and for all kinds of very good reasons, was still being run arm's length in Canada.
Hmm.
Um, and again, it comes back to this cultural thing. You cannot look at the US healthcare environment or at one of our US clinics or um, work with US coaches who are supporting US citizens, dieters, patients, whatever,
Yeah.
through the lens of a French Canadian province.
Yep.
It's a different thing. Um, so you think about the vast differences within the US culturally. I mean,
Right. From
so
one coast to the other.
I think one of the first things I could see was that the center of the business was disconnected from the heart of the business, which was kind of on the ground in the clinics with our dieters. Um, and we did a lot of listening to a lot of clinics and coaches. I did a lot of focus groups in those
Mhm.
before the end of that year. And it's what clinics and coaches told us that informed almost our strategy and our to-do list for the next 2 years, which we then kind of presented back at Super Weekends in 2019. There was
It's
lovely, lovely times when Super Weekends were with us, hey.
yeah.
But yeah,
So let's stay in Austin, okay? Because again, this is just such a powerful moment for you. Um, so you had that experience, you met all those people, and you were to report back to your friend, right? As to what you had found out.
yeah, yeah. And as I say, a lot of it was, I mean, kind of what brought me to this business and what has me just kind of awestruck by its potential the next few years is this is unlike anything I have ever seen. The weight loss outcomes, which as we in the Ideal Protein Nation know are health outcomes, are unlike anything I have ever seen, and I have seen a lot of weight loss data in my career, believe me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the protocol itself is incredibly effective and healthy and balanced, and I mean, goodness knows, Dr. Tran was a genius ahead of his time. Um, but the power of the ecosystem with coaching and accountability and support and that kind of weekly one-to-one hug is what sits around that protocol and the secret sauce, if you like. Then
Yeah.
the other layer that is what makes this so different to any other weight loss protocol that I know is it is a treatment regime. It
Hmm.
is something that is serving those who have tried, failed. I mean, even, like me, have tried, failed, are in a repeated cycle of low confidence and fear, and you know, have inevitably got comorbidities, other issues going on, and yet, I mean, I knew in my kind of previous life with all the research we did, um, the most important trigger, the most important kind of indicator of a weight loss success is if a physician refers you.
Wow.
If a
Wow.
physician says, "Can we talk about your weight? I've been dealing with this heart issue, or I'm re-prescribing your um, your medication, but I just want to talk about your weight that sits underneath it. And when physicians are taught and able and brave enough to deal with that, and inevitably more and more of them are going to have to do that, it's a very, very powerful trigger. And what we bring in the educational seminar and the work, some of the work you've done in the way you've kind of positioned this to prospective dieters and patients is tell the story, bring the science, enhance that sense of confidence that we've got you. This time it can work. This can be the last time you ever have to do this. But it's backed by solid science, and it's a treatment, and you need to stick to it. You eat the sheet, you follow it like you would any other treatment regime. And that's way more powerful than any kind of in and out casual diet. I mean, the analogy in my head is always, I look at these kind of TV advertised weight loss protocols. I look at, what's happening out there with the likes of Noom. Obviously, I had many years with Weight Watchers, and Weight Watchers is an amazing business for many, many people, and works. But all of these regimes are kind of outside in. I kind of go to Weight Watchers and I have a go. But we are fundamentally inside out, like metabolic transformation. Nobody else starts from within. And we start from within, both in a kind of metabolic and physiological sense, but we start from within because of the philosophy of coaching and Dr. Tran, and helping our patients emotionally get on the right path very quickly. And it's just incredible. It is incredible.
It's so powerful, right? And again, when we rebranded and we came out with Reset Body, Reset Mind, and Reset Possible, it spoke so perfectly to this concept.
Yeah.
I gave a talk for Dolores Zimbato early on in COVID, talking about how the power of this protocol is what it does for us on the inside. Mm-hmm. And what happens on the outside is really just a byproduct. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It brings me back to, and I got to tell you, I'm this close to tears right now. It brings me back to when I was chasing you around in Arlington at the first Arlington Super Weekend that you attended. And all I wanted was 20 minutes with Mel, because just like all of those people in Austin, I totally identified with that story and all of those adjectives. But I just wanted you to know what an incredible jewel that you now had in your possession with this protocol. And I never got that time in Arlington. Little did I know it was probably for the best, because I wouldn't have had much impact. And then a few months later in Dallas, God, Dallas, what an incredible weekend that was. You talk about the super weekend of all super weekends, right? And I finally did get that I was supposed to have 15 minutes with, okay, your 15 minutes with Mel is at 1:00. You be over here and you get 15 minutes with Mel. And we sat there for a half an hour. You had a line that had developed while you gave me your time, and I will always cherish that. And I was shoving Mike Ciel's book in your hand saying, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Right? To me, as the doctor, as the scientist, I wanted you to understand this was not Weight Watchers. This was not a diet. This was something so totally different. And I wanted you to understand the value of all of that. And it is amazing to me, as we're having these discussions over these past few weeks, how thoroughly you understand that, and just how amazing it is.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that from pretty much day one when I talked to folks, and we've both used different analogies. I mean, you said to me the other week, it's the best kept secret in weight loss, and in many ways we still are. In the very early days, I used to talk about, this is a diamond buried in a deep mine, and we just need to take the diamond out and shine it off, because we've got to bring this this magic to more people, and not just because, you know, it's a business and we want to do that. It's like, you know, there are 220 odd million overweight and obese people in North America. That is a third of the world's population of overweight and obese residing in countries.
Wow. These numbers are staggering.
There are 130 million of those 220 that are obese.
Yeah.
And inevitably have health conditions, comorbidities, restrictions on their lifestyle, and you know, a threatened life expectancy. And you know, much more so now in this pandemic world. And it's like they need our help. I mean, we have to figure out a way of getting to more of them. And I think in one way, you know, if kind of I look at the last 2 years, and I would call it my school report, we've had to, based on what we heard from clinics and coaches in those very early days, we've really had to focus on foundational elements of this protocol and the ecosystem that needed re-strengthening.
I'm gonna call timeout real quick, just because I do want to. So far, we're still in Austin, and we're still in Austin. You're still a consultant. No, you've given your report. So you've given a report, and after you gave the report of what you saw from Austin, what was the resulting discussions after that?
My recommendation was that I mean, Olivier had said he was ready to retire. He wasn't really spending much time in the business anyway, and he had other interests. So I kind of talked to Olivier, I talked to the investors, and we all agreed that we should seek a new management team. There were some core disciplines, if you like product innovation, that weren't happening. The training curriculum was very complicated and overloaded. So we needed to bring some subject matter experts in. I offered to help hire a CEO. I remember Deb Buchanan saying to me at that Austin Super Weekend, gosh, it would be great if you came to be our CEO. And I said, oh no, I've just finished another job and I live in Britain, you know.
And I'm on a break. We're on a break.
And then you know, the rest is history, as they say. But I kind of agreed to help. I agreed to come in and recruit the talent that they needed, and to kind of shift the focus back to US and Canada, and to put some structure around the organization that enabled us to respond better to clinics and coaches and input, and have a more accessible, transparent organization, I think. So I thought I could do all that and help and hire the person who was going to do that for the long term, who would inevitably be an American based in the US, and did that for a few weeks, and met the team. And I came out a couple more times. In January, we did a big meeting in our home office with a number of the US field team and the Canadian field team. And I remember getting in the taxi on the way back to the airport and thinking, I just fell in love. And
well, they had actually offered you what? Interim CEO, right? So
yeah, so I was
you were operating under that title of interim CEO at the time, right?
Yeah. And I just kind of called them. I literally flew back on a Thursday night.
You flew on the plane, and what happened on the plane?
Oh, so that was an earlier plane journey.
Okay.
One of the things that wedded me to the power and the potential of Ideal Protein when I came out of the Austin Super Weekend was on that flight. Sat next to him at breakfast, I read Dr. Tran's book, and gosh, it really spoke to me. I mean, it was probably my career highlight, being able to work with him on the new one and relaunch it at the end of last year, and revisit it again and interview him. He's a philanthropist, he's a psychologist, he's a scientist, he is our founder.
So
he is
amazing.
many of the reasons that I'm here. I mean, that book really speaks to me in so many ways, and the simplicity of kind of going back to that philosophy of food is medicine is so obvious, but so at the heart of who we are and what we do. And being able to bring him, I mean, he'd stepped back a lot from the business, so being able to bring
Yep.
him in and work with him the last couple of years has been an honor and a privilege. You know, if
Yeah.
he's another one of the reasons that I was meant to be here. I mean, you see him at super weekends, and the humanity and the integrity of this man is unlike.
He's one of those people who just has a presence about him.
Mhm,
It's a very calming,
mhm,
warm, reassuring,
mhm.
and an amazing presence that he
Yeah,
has. He's
yeah,
so small in stature,
yeah,
but his presence is just so huge.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the first super weekend that I went to, I believe it was 2015 or 2016 in Arlington. He addressed the super weekend for the first time in English.
Mhm.
I guess he had brought an interpreter before or whatever, but they were so excited to have him actually address the audience in
Yeah,
English for the first time, and
yeah,
to see how that's evolved over has just been fantastic.
yeah. Oh, I mean, we started off this conversation talking about businesses and relationships and people. I mean, he personifies ideal protein for me,
Yeah,
both as a physician and as a psychologist and as somebody with humility and just immense humanity. And yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with him. And, you know, I that book spoke to me before I even really got to know him. Um, Yeah. So yes, I
yeah,
have many of these plane journeys where I'm coming home and reflecting and digesting, and coming home from
from Gatineau.
this team meeting in Gatineau back in January 19, I'm forgetting the years. I just thought I literally flew overnight and I waited until 9 a.m. New York time, which is 2 p.m. my time,
Yep.
um, the Friday morning, and I called our lead guy at Apex, and I called Anne and said, "Stop the search. I'm going to do this. We'll figure it out. I'll
Yeah.
travel." So I did. I mean, I spent many months and many hours on an aeroplane that first year, and um,
Absolutely.
we had the absolute privilege and pleasure of super weekends that enabled me to travel wherever we were for super weekends and see clinics and meet coaches and get into the business. And whilst we've really worked hard to do a lot of that on Zoom in the past year, I feel the physical gulf right now. I really miss you. I can talk to you, and I can talk to you all day long, but what I would get out of being in your clinic and seeing some patients and talking to the team, and that's why I
Yep.
kind of yeah, I have to touch and feel these things, and my biggest worry is that we lose these connections that are so powerful.
Yeah.
um the super weekends are everybody's opportunity to train, learn, but also reconnect, build relationships, share. There's something very humbling about them when you hear people's stories, and yeah, it's my favorite place to be ever. So
It is. We have to get back to that.
we do.
Like you
We have
said, to be
to.
able to put your arms around the people. We talked about this that in 2019, as things kind of got rolling there, you kind of felt like you were hitting your stride,
Mhm,
and then the pandemic hit, and
mhm,
this has been the hardest part of the whole thing. And
mhm,
we've talked about how it's kind of created a chasm between the frontline clinics on the ground and corporate. And
mhm,
um, every time that I saw you, when I saw you in Arlington, I saw you in Dallas, I had that feeling like, oh my gosh, she's it. She is the perfect person in this position. Um, for me, I'm a people person too, right?
Mhm.
And so, I need to know. I don't need to know what the decisions are or any of that stuff. If I know the right person is in the right place, I put my faith and my trust in that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then when we don't get back together again, and we can't be with these people and what have you, you start to, all kinds of thoughts. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? What the heck?
Yeah.
Who made this decision? Oh my God. All that stuff happens when you're not immediately accessible or within arm's reach.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's not, I mean, yeah, I have to give credit because, this isn't really about me. It's about the team, and the team are on the ground, and they're running some fantastic regional events. It's great actually looking at this slide, and there's Deb. Deb's one of the key
Yep.
reasons that I'm here.
Yep.
And Andrew Lightball, one of our RVPs, he's amazing. He's with me with Geneva tomorrow.
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
but we have a phenomenal team on the ground in the US. We've now employed the team on the ground in Canada, and they're making great strides. And they're absolutely doing their damnedest to stay in touch, stay connected, and helping connect us. But
Yeah.
nothing beats me walking through the door. I mean, you had Ed on last week. I visited his clinic in April 19. He was away, but I met with his wife and his family and the coaches and saw some incredible stuff and learned an awful lot about, his passion. And
I
he
can't
came.
even imagine. I would love to visit that clinic.
Nothing beats being there, I should say.
Yeah. Right.
So I just can't wait to get back to that. And just so everybody knows, we have super weekends booked for as soon as we can get back to them. So they are coming soon to a state near you.
Yes, hoping. And I've got to travel all over the place now. Again, with the idea of trying to reestablish connections and communications, et cetera. I found myself here in my office by myself many days, filling curbside takeaway orders and things like that. And I had always had this, you've got that list of projects or creative things you've always wanted to do, and a podcast has always been on my list. I had some prodding from my local team with Dolores and Kathy Newman and Maria Siaza, and a little poking and prodding was all it took for me. And I decided to do this. Oh, there's somebody we haven't met yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's another dog.
No worries. And reaching out to the people that I started with my list from that Dallas Super Weekend, right, with Tuni Raffaele. And just kind of, I can't wait for Super Weekends to start again. I got to travel to Canada. I've got to travel all over the place to hug these people and see them in person and be a part of all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I've met some incredible people in the last couple of years. Like I say, I genuinely mean I've learned more in the last 2 years than probably the rest of my career put together, both about myself and my own behaviors, but also about the power of this protocol and the physiology and the science. We are a learning organization, and we need to kind of help our coaches learn more and more and more. We need to feel like they're ours from a continuous professional development point of view. It's tough. I mean, I know. I mean, I was a Weight Watchers leader. I know it's tough facing, people with so many challenges and so many stories and keeping them buoyed up. I always say, we have to be beyond excellent for our dieters and our patients because it's what they deserve. To be beyond excellent, our coaches have to kind of be at the top of their game all of the time. For them to be that, our clinic owners have to kind of support them and provide that context. And therefore, we have to be even better than that. And that's kind of what we need to strive to be. I think having had now 12 months of this kind of pandemic environment, no matter what state you're in and how much kind of movement and mobility there is or isn't, everybody's had to adapt.
Yeah.
And we need to do a better job. We've done so many foundational things so well now, but we need to do a better job of really helping actualize that experience for our clinic owners and our clinic managers and our coaches.
Let's go through that real quick now. Again, let's talk about some of the core. We were taught. You call it blocking and tackling. It kind of came to me as the idea of the core work that needs to be done for an athlete before they can actually perform. Let's go through your 2-year report card on the changes that were made. Let's start with the rebranding and all of those things.
Okay.
So exciting, right?
So yeah, I mean, just to kind of recap, we put the feedback from clinics and coaches into what I would call 5 buckets, and there was product, protocol, training, marketing and branding, and then some of the kind of operational challenges we had with the system and the old app and things that just needed fixing. But the branding work, when I first came in, I thought this cannot be the biggest priority we have. The product innovation funnel isn't strong enough. We need to shore that up. We're a training organization. It's all about our coaches. We need to focus on training. But it soon became apparent that branding, the old curve shape, it just, for all kinds of reasons, I think we had a kind of an anemic version of Ideal Protein out there in terms of the structure, the compliance, the protocol. They weren't clear. And then when you have a brand that doesn't really speak confidently or articulately to the science and the humanity of this program, isn't contemporary, isn't rewarding those dieting or food choice behaviors, it became obvious to us that it was an issue. The example I always use is in my pantry. It's like, it's tough from a dieter perspective, making those choices every day, eating the sheets, sticking to the food. It's very doable, and we give them lots of support, and our clinics are brilliant at kind of carrying them through, but it's tough. And if you wake up in one particular morning feeling vulnerable and you're faced with that versus being faced with that, one of them says something about what this is, and it feels more rewarding. It feels like a choice I'm making that's positive, as opposed to kind of like the astronaut pouch, as we now call it.
The NASA packets, right?
And that's
right.
a little tiny example. It's trivial, but this whole way we've kind of thought about the logo and positioning ourselves as, the premium kind of protocol and something that drives outcomes that are scientifically based, but also psychology and coaching based, and trying to bring, that whole logo. I know there was a massive debate and loads of people like, oh, is that really a square and a circle, really? We can all, you can love it or hate it. You can like the typeface, you can not, but it does bring together that unique philosophy that Dr. Tran brought to Ideal Protein, which is about, the kind of angularity and the formulaic nature of the science with that circle of life, that life possible, that humanity. And
when we talked about this, right? So that the unveiling of the new branding, et cetera, and there was so much buildup. I had all of my coaches. I bought them lunch. We were sitting in our back room with it. I hooked the computer up to the TV so that it was a big deal for us. And one of the consultants had been here. Julie Peller had been in my office, and we talked about how incredible this new logo was going to be, and all of the things it would entail, and all of the thought that was going into developing it. And we thought it was the next Superman logo that we'd be wearing on our chests. And when the build up and when the logo hit the screen, all of us in the room were just kind of looking at it, and I'm like, do you see what I see? Is it a square and a circle? It's a square and a circle. Okay. But again, as we sat back and understood that diamond, right? That the angularity, like you said, of that diamond, and everybody says this diamond is a square, represents the science of the protocol.
Mm,
And, we didn't really announce this to our clients and what have you,
mm,
but I think it would be fascinating for them to understand why that logo developed.
mm,
The square or the diamond being the science of the protocol,
mm,
and the orange circle being representing the humanity of the coaching
mm,
and everything that goes into that side of it. And that is exactly what this company is all about, both of those sides. It's what the protocol is all about, and the coaching together. It's the perfect marriage of those things. And Dolores Zimbato brought it full circle to me when she was giving us an update training for clinics one time. She had said, the more that she thought about that logo and the more she sees it and understands the marriage of science and humanity, she said it immediately makes her think of Dr. Tran.
yeah.
It is kind of a graphic representation of
Yeah.
the essence of who Dr. Tran is.
Well, and
That was brilliant.
the
Brilliant.
essence of what ideal protein is that's so
Yeah.
different. And I also think, we can maybe in hindsight we overbuilt it. Maybe in hindsight we've kind of overanalyzed it, but it was the strategy behind it. It was the work that Cheryl and the team did on that came to Powering Life Possible, that has
Yeah.
enabled us to do food is medicine, weight loss is healthcare, and it sits in a strategic place that almost beyond the logo itself. A year later now, when you look at our protocol materials, when you look at our packaging, when you look at how we present ourselves to the outside world in the campaigns, this is night and day a different brand. And this is a brand that, our role in the next few years is to take this brand out with some of the new clinical data that's going to be coming through, with supporting our clinics with local PR efforts, with the work we'll do to tell the ideal protein story. We can tell that story with pride now, and almost the work to get to that logo is forgotten. A lot of people don't know the history, and the history doesn't matter. It's how we present ourselves in a high quality, meaningful way is what matters.
Well, and we also want to address one of the other issues, and it's still probably been perpetuated by the chasm that the pandemic has brought to us. But you and a lot of your team are ex Weight Watchers executives and team members, and there was a big concern that basically we were just going to Weight Watcherize Ideal Protein, and that we were going to kind of go from an outside in kind of. There, I'll admit I'm one of them. We all kind of crave that. We need to shout this from the rooftops. We crave a commercial on TV. We crave that visibility in front of people to show off our diamond, right? But can you speak to the idea of, the whole concept was not to make another Weight Watchers or Weight Watcherize us.
Absolutely. I
How
mean,
do you address that?
I bought different subject matter experts in, not just from Weight Watchers, but I mean, Julie Guinapero, who runs our learning and development team, came from the healthcare, the pharmacy sector, sorry. But I brought people in who had expertise. I mean, Suzanne, who runs the products team, is probably one of the experts anywhere on protein and food development, but in the context of how do you deliver that in a way that makes sense to the consumer. So our experiences help us, but none of us have come into this because we believe this could be the next Weight Watchers. In fact, everybody in the team who's come into this believes the absolute opposite. They believe that there's huge potential for this because it's so different to Weight Watchers. Because there's so much knowledge and experience and expertise out there. I think the one challenge for me, and the one thing I want us all to do much more, is work with and learn from our partners in clinics to deliver better outcomes for you guys in terms of evolving the ideal protein protocol and business and training, etc. We asked Deirdre to do all the work on the protocol, and we're about to launch phase 3, which is phenomenal. And she's homegrown in some ways, and also a very capable professional dietitian. So there was never any drive to make this into Weight Watchers in any way, or a sort of consumer, a more casual consumer weight loss effort.
I like how you say that. Yep.
I think TV and TV advertising, and I know there's many who believe we really need to build this brand, and I totally agree. The question for me is not whether we do, but how.
Yeah.
There are many companies like Jenny and Nutrisystem and Weight Watchers who spend, oh, your phone's calling, who spend millions on TV and attract a kind of trigger response from people who think, yeah, on Monday I'm going to show up and I'm going to enroll or whatever. But that's not who we are. As we said at the beginning of this, we are bringing patients in who need our help, who need to think about this as a treatment, and who are making a big commitment to a rigorous protocol. And that is not a behavior that is triggered by a TV ad, ever. So yes, there we go. So I'm going to keep talking because I think we've lost John. And what else can I tell you?
Nothing embarrassing about that. The first time I've totally lost control of the show, and it happens to be with Mel Stack.
It's okay. I just carried on. I just filled in for you. It's fine.
You're natural. I shared with you, I don't know if you saw it, I sent you a picture of what Life Possible Studios looks like, right? Mm-hmm. And so again, if you can kind of picture that, there are like 50 different checklist items I need to do to get the studio up and running, because I'm doing it out of my front office. And usually turning off the phone is one of those. Mm-hmm. But
we've had my dogs as well this morning. So.
All right. Yeah, we had talked about why there's so much excitement, mm-hmm. as well as there's so much right now anticipation of the impact that our program, that Ideal Protein, offers the world at this particular moment in time. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of speak to the idea that there were so many how shall we say, bad things or so many problems that came about because of the pandemic. But one of the most interesting parts of this situation that we find ourselves in is that it's literally giving us the best opportunity to shine. Again, in scrambling, clinic owners have faced so many different things, and we all had to scramble and try to go virtual and try to do curbside orders and takeaway, and Ideal Protein was amazing. Corporate was amazing with a lot of the accommodations that they made for us. I truly, I've got to give you guys that, because of the different ways you made it easier for us to order food, drop ship food for people who were truly quarantined and remote. It was absolutely amazing. But in thinking about all of this and in seeing what was happening and talking to Dolores and comparing notes, and one of the things that struck me, and I brought this up when I was doing the episode with Melissa Hozak, is that it really struck us that, the most important pandemic that the world faced before COVID and now during and after COVID is the pandemic of obesity, metabolic syndrome, and insulin resistance. And one of the most powerful weapons available to fight this pandemic is the Ideal Protein protocol. What say you about that? Agree? Disagree?
Oh my goodness! Now, how can I say this? I feel like all the work that we've done thus far, in Ideal Protein, way before me and way beyond me. The collective we, the experiences that you guys have had in the clinics, the experiences our dietitists have had, the work we've done, the foundational work we've done on protocol and training, etc., the last 2 or 3 years, it's like our time has come now. We are a better version of ourselves.
Yep.
We are ready to bring more people into the ideal protein world, and goodness knows they need us. If COVID has done nothing else, and not that I would wish, this has been the toughest year in, I've grown up in a generation like you where we haven't had major wars. We've been a very privileged and lucky generation.
Yeah.
And then, we're all faced with this pandemic that none of us globally are equipped to deal with on this scale. And it's been tragic and it's been hard. But it's really shone a light on the vulnerability of immunity and obesity and metabolic health.
Metabolic health. Yep.
We have to, it's almost like what before may have been a matter of choice for people is now a matter of survival.
Wow. And, absolutely. Right.
It's on the one hand, I'm in awe of what we do and the opportunity we have, and on the other hand, it scares what sits out of me. It's a responsibility we bear. I don't know what to say. Physicians don't have answers. Many physicians have not been taught. In fact, most physicians, unless they've come through very recently, have not been taught how to kind of deal with obesity or the topic of weight loss. They're frustrated because they know they have to tackle it, and they know, going forward, we're going to have to deal with it. And this has accelerated the whole thing. But they don't know how, they don't know who to turn to. And here we are in this environment, in a physician kind of supervised healthcare context, delivering evidence-based healthy outcomes that can protect people. It's like it's the perfect storm of opportunity in a way, and it's fun. It's why we're here. It's like why I'm here today. It's like everything that brought us here for a reason, and our reason in the next few years is to get people healthier, to help them deal with this disease called obesity, to deal with metabolic syndrome, to have them be more protective and stronger in an environment of where health is threatened. It also does for dieters and the general population, dial up the importance of being healthy and finding a route to kind of healthy outcomes, healthy weight loss.
Well, it's a situation where it's what's necessary to give people the confidence to even just live their life in a manner that will resemble what they used to do, right? And that's what this pandemic has done. It's really shed a light on what the underlying metabolic syndrome, the underlying insulin resistance portion of obesity that a lot of people suffer from, how it's made them so vulnerable. Even just this past couple weeks, there were 2 new studies that came out that show that the most severe COVID outcomes, hospitalizations and deaths, et cetera, are tied to the 4 cardiometabolic conditions: obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. And it's literally metabolic syndrome in a nutshell. And then the other part of the backside of this is we're so excited about the vaccines coming out and people are getting vaccinated, et cetera. The challenge of that is what we also know from previous studies on the flu vaccine. And now there's been a study that dropped literally days ago that talks about how obesity makes the vaccine actually less effective.
This was the Italian study, right?
It was an Italian study, and fascinatingly enough, it was done on healthcare workers, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. And what they did was they had the healthcare workers get their 2 vaccinations. It was done on the Pfizer vaccine. And then afterwards, they did antibody titers to see how many antibodies were produced, how effective it was. And what they found was that it was 50% less effective. There were 50% less antigens formed in people who had a BMI above 30.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just
The ongoing need that the vaccination needs help. It
yeah,
needs you to work on your metabolic health to be even more effective.
yeah,
And of course, they were thinking, so that does that mean we need to give them a third or a booster or what have you? And the underlying message is no, we actually just need to address their metabolic health.
yeah. I the pre-COVID, pre the pandemic, the world was heading towards a diabetes crisis that was going
Yep.
to hit at some stage and really force a change. Um, this is a different route to the same result, I think, in terms of forcing a change. Nobody ever goes on a weight loss journey because they're part of a public health crisis. It's a very individual, personal
Mm-hmm.
decision. But speaking personally, when my health is challenged, when my immunity is threatened, when my ability to live in the outside world the next few years, in terms of my vulnerability to whatever strain of the virus evolves in the next few years, is threatened, it's certainly going to put a different lens on the choices I make as an
That
individual.
makes it personal, right? That absolutely makes
Yeah.
it personal. Yeah. The other thing that we had talked about, this is in the crazy world that we live in and things that are going on and social media, et cetera, et cetera. There's another challenge that we face as a weight loss company, and that challenge is kind of a developing and continuing backlash, if you will, against the diet mentality. The struggle, and it's born out of frustration. I've it's really been hitting me lately. I've discussed this with my niece, just about the whole idea that some people are so frustrated in their weight loss journey, and they've struggled and they've failed so much that they've given up. um, and I was there. This is why it hits home for me, right? Because I was literally there. They don't see a way out, and so finally they're fed up, and they just, they say things like, these 2 articles that came up on my social media feed. I'm a fat cyclist and I don't need to fix myself, so lay off, right? I'm a fat equestrian and I'm never dieting again. I give up. I'm done, right? Um, that frustration that's there, that's crying out for an answer.
So it's
Can you
interesting that you
speak
talked
to
about
that?
it in the context of your niece. I mean, as a mother of a 24-year-old
Yeah.
daughter, um, I, I really understand this and I really empathize with this in one way because, you know, social media and the kind of insidious media representation of thin is best and the whole zero size models debate, etc., has created a kind of dysmorphia around body image and has created a drive with teenagers at a time when their brains are not ready to kind of make informed choices, to kind of be very, very body conscious, and you're either in that thin, skinny, group or you're not. In a world where we're saying, a majority of people are overweight and obese, and we live in an obese environment. So I understand, should the media portray normality more? Yes. Should the media be supportive of and positive about people who are overweight or obese. Absolutely, they should. Is the lady who's a fat equestrian successful, capable, strong, disciplined in her training, and all the things it takes to operate at the top of her sport? Of course she is. Are the girls featured on this Cosmopolitan cover here strong, positive, sassy, great women? Absolutely they are. But where it crosses a line and where it's really dangerous is looking at that Cosmopolitan line. This is healthy. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Find me a physician anywhere in the world who knows anything about metabolic syndrome or the disease of obesity, or the impact of fat on your internal organs, and
Your immune system.
say this is healthy. It should be acceptable and it shouldn't be shamed. And people are people, and more people in the population are overweight or obese and should be reflected as such in the media. Just because these girls have a weight challenge doesn't make them sad or unattractive or anything else. They are brilliant, capable, fantastic girls, but I am sorry, they are fundamentally not healthy. Everything we know about Ideal Protein, everything I'm no biochemist, but I'm working with lots of brilliant scientists at Ideal Protein. They are not healthy.
Yeah. Well, and again, and that brings me to, and we're going to bring this to a close. That brings me to the, one of the best things I've ever seen produced by the Ideal Protein team. The new video that premiered, that came out a couple days ago. I just want to roll through this because I think it speaks to, and it kind of ties everything up into one nice little package that we've literally just discussed. Let's take a second here and see if I can bring that up.
Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your best, healthiest life. All you have to do is find a clinic, meet your personal motivating expert coach, eat the low-fat, low-carb, high-quality Ideal Protein food and other fresh, lean meals listed on this sheet. Take micronutrients and essential supplements, hydrate, and the weight comes off. Mauricio lost 450 pounds. Laura lost 140. Marnie lost 45. Being overweight is not your fault. It's a health issue caused by the North American diet that leads to serious medical conditions. And weight loss is healthcare, period. Our protocol starts with losing self-blame, loving yourself just as you are, and following these 3 phases. Phase 1, weight loss. You're armed with Ideal Protein food, lots of other fresh, healthy meals and snacks, and a personal expert coach to guide, inspire, and keep you on track. The science works like this. Right now, your body gets most of its energy from sugar and carbs, but on protocol, you cut them out and drain your sugar tank, signaling to your body to switch over to your fat tank, reset your metabolism, and start burning your own fat as your primary energy source. Which means you're in ketosis, burning fat, maintaining muscle, and losing weight. And more weight, until you reach your goal. And then phase 2, stabilization. Your coach helps you transition to gradually reintroduce carbs and learn the perfect amount of fat, protein, and net carbs your body specifically needs to maintain your new weight, aka your macro code. And finally, phase 3, maintenance. You use your new macro code and continued coach support to maintain your healthy weight and live a full, active life of pure, sweet possible.
I will never, ever go back to my bad habits. They are gone.
It sounds a little melodramatic, but it saved my life.
Dr. Paul.
I am able to think positively and feel like my future is endless.
Ideal Protein, powering life possible.
It's amazing. If I hadn't gone through your phone call before, what I meant to say when we were talking about the TV was, that's our kind of advertising. It's educative. It's a story. It's a story we have to tell. So we have to work really hard to get out there.
And it's that 2 minutes. That's a 2-minute video, right? And again, with Cheryl said the other day on our clinic huddle, we can't get it into 60 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't do a spot because that was as concise, as perfect, and it just literally is brilliant.
Yeah.
And wraps together what we talked about, from the mindset and the approach to the science to the the relationship with your coach. Couldn't be more brilliant.
And it's we're a movement. We've said
Yes.
and it's an overused term. We've said it over many years, but in fact, I like the sense of ideal protein nation more. But it's we need to create that movement. We need to create that moment. It's a grassroots effort. The power of this protocol is the power of its presence on the ground, our coaches, our clinics, and the difference that you guys make in the community. And what we have to do is keep helping you find new ways of bringing that message out and getting it out there. But it's all word of mouth and grassroots.
And the other thing that we've talked about is the idea that, now that the core work is done, now that the blocking and tackling has been done, like you said, you've kind of lifted your head up now, and you're kind of looking around, and we've discussed the incredible resources we have within the company, and tapping some of these individuals to take on larger roles or responsibilities, and making use of their time, talents, and abilities. Man, if you just roll through the incredible guests I've had on our show, Ed Reardon and Dean Kilby, I would love to have them coach coaches, come up with some kind of a structured education program based on their experience and knowledge and backgrounds. Melissa Hozak being another incredible one that we've had.
Yeah.
I could go down the line, and I'm going to get in trouble because I'm missing people. Megan Davis and her marketing and public appearance and social media presence. So many of these people that we've had on the show, Wendy White Stevens, and helping clinics connect with physicians and gain physician referral. These are things that I see as next steps, and people and resources that we have, and how can we tap them?
We have some incredible work going on out there, and some incredible experts, and some passionate, some amazingly passionate people who, have been doing this stuff way longer than I have. And, I think the hallmark of anybody in a leadership position should be to be very humble about not knowing what they don't know. I mean, I think we did hunker down and get a lot of stuff done to kind of rebuild the foundations. And we're in a completely different place now. But it's time to start. This is again a terrible social media phrase, but it's a time to start crowdsourcing that expertise and proliferating best practice. It sounds so corporate. I don't mean it to sound corporate, but
no.
It's an unbelievable community of talent. And if there's one thing I've realized in the last few months, is we're not using that talent to spread the word and to help other clinics be great, to help that trigger that referral to, as I said, I'm talking to Geneva tomorrow, and I just realized how much we're missing. I mean, it's like, oh, come on, guys, let's get out there. And I also think, broad mobility and travel isn't coming to us anytime soon. The world will open up. The US will open up. Canada's probably more like the UK, and in terms of opening up is probably a few months behind. But we just have to find new ways of connecting. I mean, we've connected a lot the last few days, and I've learned a lot. So we need to get our heads up and get out there and connect with some of these partners, because they're amazing. Well,
I've had such a fun time. It's been such a, I never thought about how amazing it would be to do a show like this and just meet these people and be able to call them my friends.
Yeah.
It has been an incredible way to stretch around the world. I have a friend in Australia now, right?
You've done a phenomenal job, because actually the names you've mentioned, and I know you haven't mentioned all of them who've been through, but they're kind of the great and the good of clinic practice, of dieter support, of cookery idea, recipe ideas, of content. Wendy did some great stuff around a book club. I mean, there's just some creativity and marketing and momentum out there that we need to do more of.
Yeah. All right. Let's bring this in for a landing. I started and I kind of fell off, but I want to get back to it. One of the ways that I used to end the show was to ask my featured guest, life possible. When you guys dropped that concept, that's when my jaw hit the floor during that rebranding presentation. The whole concept of life possible hit me right between the eyes. To me, that's what it's all about. To me, so we're going to go on this weight loss journey, but so what? What are you going to do with that second chance at life? What is possible for you now? Like I said, and so that's why it really has started this project. And so I wanted to ask you, what would your definition, or what is your image or thought of life possible?
So that I had no idea you were connected to this. When one of those weird coincidences, but when you see something, I mean, I think in pictures anyway, but when you see and feel something that is pure euphoria and success, and that moment of never in a million years did I think I'd be here. Actually, it's kind of how I feel about this role many times, but the point for me was standing on in fact, I think I was sitting, I went back down to sit at the front, and seeing the Lynn Roos Amazing Transformation video for the first time at a super weekend. And I mean, not only is her story incredible and poignant, and I'd met Lynn a couple of times by then, and she's amazing, but she was doing a skydive in her early 60s, and not in a million years, 2 years before would she have thought, never. I mean, for years. And that moment of her floating in the air in that indoor skydiving outfit that she now brings with her, and achieving that moment of euphoric, I did this.
Yeah.
Got this life. This became possible for me. I mean, even talking about it now, I haven't. So, Lynn, if you're listening, when I think about powering life possible, or life possible as a concept, that's how I always think about it. I think about her a lot. She's incredible, but that was the pinnacle of, this is what this can do for you. It's unlike anything else. Healthy,
can you imagine?
Feeling great, feeling confident, and feeling just an incredible sense of achievement. And
yeah. Can you imagine having her as a coach?
I'd love her as a coach.
That was
Lynn.
That was an incredible experience, and I had taken my daughter to iFly, and it was a quintessential father-daughter moment. And I had a picture of that on my desk, and Lynn took a look at that in the middle of her journey. She says, "Man, I want to do that sometime." And I said, "You know what, Lynn? I will take you if you reach your goal." And that kind of became one of those things that we, kept talking about and revisiting. And to go back to that moment when she's in the tube, just screaming in her own Lynn way, right? That is it. That is life possible.
Yeah.
All right, Mel. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Like I said, I have enjoyed every single minute that we've spent in the past 3 weeks. I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait to give you a big hug when it's appropriate.
Me too. I have to live in the meantime with Dr. Wilson, who's moved in with me. So he's my
yeah, right.
him here.
Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul, I had the opportunity to meet him in Dallas. He's on my short list of people that need to be on the show for sure. So one last piece of unfinished business, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. But you mentioned the fact that you've been a runner. You've actually been on a bicycle. Do you know how to swim?
Actually, my father was a swimming teacher, so I learned very young, but I'm a hopeless. I'm terrified.
You did learn how to swim. And so if we put all three of those disciplines together, that's a triathlon. So I'm not going to put you on the spot. However, maybe that's a life possible goal. And like I said before, you know what? I'll fly across the pond and I'll do it with you.
Okay, you're on. You're on.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mel.
Give me a few months to learn how to swim properly.
I think we've got some time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
We will talk to you later on.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with us. We've now topped the 2-hour mark, but I can't think of a more important show. There wasn't anything that we left unsaid that we wanted to say. I hope that you take it in bites and pieces and thoroughly digest this incredible show, this incredible interview with Mel Stack. So thank you, everybody. Again, like, share, subscribe to the podcast. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. If you're looking for an Ideal Protein clinic, please go to the corporate website. There's a clinic locator there. If you're in the Washington, D.C. area, my clinic is Barnes Chiropractic Health and Fitness. We're out in Centerville, Virginia. But I hope that we've inspired people. We've spoken to both your heart and your head. And I hope that you will continue your journey towards life possible.